I have no idea why Chilling in Another World level 2 super cheap powers decided to crank up the quality, but it did a few different times to the point of absolutely destroying Isekai Tropes. The types of tropes that I'm fine with, that you don't need to stomp on. And this show said, you know what? We're actually going to make this show even better. The Balirosa stuff was enough to make this an enjoyable episode. The subversion of what you expect a Dark One, a Demon Lord, the big evil of a world is supposed to be. While it's not necessarily the first time that dynamic is in complete utter chaos, it isn't something you see in your average isekai series. You add in the idea that every time he comes over because he's trying to recruit our boy, she pops up, gets petrified like Medusa, just stared at her, and the fact that it seems like he's pursuing her, like, as she starts running away, he starts approaching her. If that isn't the biggest ship of the season, I don't know what is, but it's absolutely comedy gold. But you have to admit, the constant back and forth of how this man wants nothing to do with either humans or demons. He doesn't know why they're fighting, what the war's about. I'm not even from here. At the end of the day, I'm trying to chill in another world. And the idea that this douchebag level hero that would fit in with the cast of S.H.I.E.L.D. hero flawlessly comes in with an army ready to kill and throw hands. And what does he do? In most of these shows, well, he'd be forced to fight, right? Because, well, ultimately at this point, you can't do anything else. You can't pull your punches anymore. He says, in that case, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna go live somewhere else. It's okay. You guys have this land if I'm intruding. The dude's so flabbergasted he can't do anything but Pikachu face, and this boy doesn't even just simply teleport the group away. He teleports the whole building and the fields of food. Built different is the only way to describe him, as it seemingly, this is the thing that really got me. All of that's well and fine. We have a Dark One who doesn't want to fight. He has a different ideology and opinion of this thing. If he can avoid conflict, he will. But from his point of view, it kind of looks like potentially either A, this army is the reason they left, which is bad enough, but it could be even worse. His opinion could be that they destroyed him and his people, so at this point, it seems like war has begun because you messed with his homie. What a freaking amazing episode. Full live reactions over on my Patreon if you want to see my full and get thoughts to this or any of these episodes. It's going to be over there if you're interested. I mean, I've been loving this show, of course, but I am really loving it now. There is something so good about the dynamics, and the fact that, you know, especially after last week, which proves it's not your run-of-the-mill harem, you know, anything that tried to be an extra love interest would get their head bitten off. And the idea that you can actually have a group that are going to have their own lives but also want to stick with our boy is really interesting. And I think, if anything, this episode cements Balirosa as being, like, well, the most interesting out of the group, because, you know, she starts off understandably upset. If you look at any four of them in the group, who do you think deserves or wants a Dragon Slayer title? It's probably the Knight, but the idea that I didn't think it was, like, the big bad, because at first I was like, wait, it kind of looks like him, but I was like, no, he looks frail. Like, if anything, he's gonna be like, you know, a grandpa to Fenris or something, you know, something like that. And the idea that it actually was, and just how casually he's there, this is the only human who would ever so calmly look at someone to that degree and not either be fearful, show respect, you know, all these things, and he's just like, you like your tea? Oh, that's some interesting aura. Yeah, I have no interest working with you. The fact that he just can't help but be impressed by this human, because he's like, this is the only human who has ever been like this in front of me. I have to respect the homie. And the fact that he comes day after day. The only missed opportunity with this episode was him not waking up Balirosa, because the next day after all this, like after she's been petrified for a good 24 hours, she wakes up, she's ready to start anew. You know what? I'm okay now. I'm good. And he's just in the living room cheering like, hey, how's the early riser? It's like, I needed him to wake her up. But I guess that will happen after they probably become a couple. There's no way they don't do something. At first, I was like, if any of the four were going to have a relationship, it was going to be Muscle Mommy in the background. But no, it's got to be her. It's just for the chaos. Eventually, he's going to do something for her that's going to make her, like, actually fall in love with him and not just constantly be petrified. But he seemingly has an interest in her. And honestly, given the fact that we're subverting expectations with a dark army, I mean, Fenris is already with a human without much struggle from the Dark One's point of view. Dark One doesn't even really want to fight humans if he can avoid it. I mean, him falling in love with a human makes a lot of sense in my opinion. And I'm glad that they gave it sooner rather than later with this D-bag hero, for the second time we know of, ran away as soon as there was an ounce of chaos. The only reason he is on a horse, well, it's actually a two-parter. One, he wants to appear bigger than people because he has a low ego and self-esteem of himself. But two, so he can run away if there is any sign of danger. He's pathetic. He doesn't deserve the position he's in. And it almost felt like he was trying to judge our boy when he initially got to his home, because he probably thought to himself, oh, he's doing what I'm doing. He's building a harem and trying to chill in another world where I'm the big, strong hero, I deserve it. And in actuality, this man's like building an actual loving relationship with Fenris and Fenris alone, while just avoiding conflict because he recognizes his power. Which honestly, I appreciated his reasoning for not wanting to fight. It's kind of like, okay, I don't know why you're fighting, but the biggest thing is like, I recognize now that I am so powerful, and he's actually fearful of using that power if he has to, because like, ultimately he doesn't know how insane he could get, and he doesn't want to cause chaos, especially for a conflict that he has no part of at the end of the day. It's honestly a respective motivation. I mean, people can call shows like these generic, isekai, trash, junk food, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's plenty of shows that I think the exact same that people try to convince me that they're not. We all have our opinions, we all have our tastes, but for me, this is an absolutely fantastic show. I mean, I don't even know what I want to see next of. I saw a little bit of the preview, I didn't watch too much of it. I mean, we're in a more populated area now, right? So we're actually surrounded by a lot of markets and stuff, so I think we're going to get probably a more typical, like, fantasy kind of town-like episode next week that will probably also subvert expectations, just given the trend so far. But I think anyone who walked in expecting I can predict every single note that this anime is going to hit, they're going to be sorely mistaken, because there's no way you look at an episode like this with a Dark One who is as intimidating as the end of last week's episode and expected Balirosa to run around with it like a chicken with her head cut off, scared because this man could like constantly pursue her in the most hilarious way. Our boy was going to teleport the whole goddamn farm away in the biggest L this hero could ever take, and how a war would seemingly start when the Dark One had no expectations. You can't actually predict any of that walking into this episode. This was a great subversion of Isekai Tropes. I like Isekai Tropes, but every step of the way, this show's getting progressively better, and I mean, I love it. I love every minute of this. I could watch easily 2 courses of this minimum, and I hope they definitely do many, many seasons, because I'm loving it. Let me know what you thought down below. Favorite moment of the episode. My favorite moment has to be just the constant him popping up and her freaking out, but let me know yours down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you know if I went up a little more, and like I mentioned, got those full live reactions over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Davlin, Harry Truscott, Furno19Z, and we also have Selkie, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.